And here we are in the men's Youth 2v8 C final. In lanes 1 through 8, we have another 8-boat C final here this morning. In lane 1, Port. Lane 2, CRI. Lane 3, White Rock Rowing. Lane 4, Chicago. Lane 5, Montclair. Lane 6, DC National. Lane 7, Rose City. And lane 8, Milwaukee, looking at places 13 through 20. This race will decide places 13 through 20 in the country. Right now, our current leaders are Montclair, taking Chicago along with them. So those are the two crews in the very center of the race course in lanes 4 and lanes 5, not respectively, but in the dark hull is Chicago, and in the light hull is Montclair. Montclair was the early leaders, had a little bit more, but in this second 500 of the race, Chicago has taken back some of the lead that Montclair had on them early to not quite bring it level yet, but just a few seats down from being bow ball to bow ball here as they are approaching the middle as they are well into the middle thousand of this race.
Montclair Scholastic School out of New Jersey. And at 1,000 meters, you can see they're only a couple feet behind the big club Chicago Rowing Foundation. And then it looks like all the way in lane 8 is the boat in third place. That's Milwaukee. And then everybody clumped together thereafter. Everybody connected. So we've got really tremendous racing going on here. Again, in another 8-boat across C final, this time being the men's Youth 2v8. And it continues to really just be that same lead there for Chicago. Maybe as soon as I start talking, I'm seeing the Coxon move up a little bit relative to Montclair. Montclair about 37, 38 strokes a minute. As you see a good shot there of the blue of Milwaukee. And you see Milwaukee now has about a length lead on Rose City. Rose City with about a half a length there on DC National. And then you've got those 3 or 4 boats, Port, CRI, White Rock, all clumped together there at the top of the race course. Again, within striking distance of a couple of those boats ahead of them, Milwaukee, Rose City, DC National.
And as you can see during that portion of the race there, that third 500, Chicago is extending their lead. Now they have about a half a length, just about to break open, past a half a length, getting into 3/4 of a length lead on Montclair. So if they keep this momentum going, it's going to set them up as they are about to cross into the last 500 of this race. Certainly less than 2 minutes left for each of these athletes on the race course right now, as 8s do cover a lot of ground very, very quickly here. And so we'll see who winds it up first. The 8s, you might see some higher stroke rates happening. We're going to find out who's going to sprint early, who's going to sprint a little bit later. Sometimes teams wait until they get into those red buoys. Sometimes they know they need to throw a haymaker and start sprinting with 400 or 500 meters left to go. Part of it's strategy. Part of it is what do we need right now. What we know is that in lanes 4 and lanes 5, still Chicago and Montclair out in front, being contested very closely, or being contested now, challenged for third place, is Milwaukee. They are really pushing out from the rest of the field, creating some distance between them and the adjacent lanes of Rose City and DC National. But they also need to stay aware of what's going on the opposite side of the course, as we do have 3 boats on the far side in lanes 1, 2, and 3. Still Port, CRI, and White Rock still very much in contact with one another. Of those 3, Port, CRI, and White Rock, it does appear that Port is ahead of White Rock, who is ahead of CRI by just a few seats, maybe a quarter of a length, something like that. And just as I say that, CRI has already begun to sprint because they want to get another piece back from White Rock. But keep an eye out. Chicago still extending their lead. Montclair next to them would be in second place currently, and Milwaukee charging hard, if not looking to take the lead, that take over second place from Montclair.
Yeah, Milwaukee really pushing it hard, using maybe the crowd, using that lane 8 to try to see if they can track down Montclair. I don't know if they'll do it, but they certainly are trying, and the effort is there. As you see Chicago out in front now and really rowing away with this C final of the men's Youth 2v8. And they're going to do it in style with open water, will Chicago. And then it's going to be Montclair. Are they going to hang on? Is Milwaukee going to catch them? It's going to be very close. They will be connected at the finish line. It does look like Montclair will hang on to second place in this C final, and they will finish about 3/4 of a length ahead of Milwaukee. Milwaukee will finish about 3/4 of a length ahead of Rose City in the adjacent lane to them. Oh, big ejector crab from Rose City at the finish line, but they still will finish in 4th place. All the way up at the top of the race course, it is Port, who looks like they're going to finish in 5th place, and then too close to call, White Rock and DC National just ahead of CRI. So quite the action there at the finish line with a an athlete who's going to get picked up and is going to get a ride back to his boat here from Rose City, but it was won by Chicago, as I said, in style with open water ahead of Montclair. A great row from Montclair, again, a Scholastic school, finishing in second place. That was the men's youth 2v8 C final, and the next race that will be on the race course, as has been the pattern all morning long, will be the women's installment of this boat class, the women's youth 2v8 C final.